Soos genoem gesels ek vanoggend met Dr. Claudia Cardoso en sy's 'n veearts en 'n lektor aan die Universiteit van Pretoria. Doctor, welcome to GROOTplaas.
Thank you so much, Mia.
And it's a big theme we're talking about, wildfires, and it's something that happens so commonly in South Africa, but also worldwide. So, just set the setting for me. Why is wildfires so dangerous?
Well, it is very dangerous because it's devastating for the environment, first of all.
Needless to say, yes.
Yes, and also if we focus on farming, it is devastating for the farmers. It really destroys everything that has been built for many years, and in a matter of minutes. So that's the main importance of the topic that we are working with.
And that's one of the things, I think, when you think about a wildfire, or a fire, you know, gushing through your fields, I don't know, and I don't think a lot of people realize how quickly that devastation happens, right?
Yeah, and it is really, really quick. And most of the times it happens without you noticing. And when it's noticed, then it's already happening in the field and difficult to actually contain. And that's the most, difficult thing to do. Yeah.
And the thing is, when we talk about, you mentioned the impact on the environment.
Yes.
And we saw a while ago, you know, what happened in New York with the fires in Canada, and it just spreading that orange smoke. Why is that so big? I mean, is that a phenomenon? How did that happen?
So what is happening is actually right now happening in Canada, the wildfires. I believe that the phenomenon that is happening now is because the wild is, with all these pine trees and all that, is the fuel is so big that the wind also brings all the debris into, another country. It's the reality that is happening right now.
Yeah.
It also happened in Australia a few years back.
Yes.
They had two big issues in 2014 and 2020 as well that were really, really devastating for them.
Yeah. And it's obviously that it's a worldwide problem. Now, if we bring it back to South Africa, you guys are busy with a very specific project. And tell me about your speciality and your focus when it comes to wildfires.
Okay, our focus has been since 2021 when I started actually going into this topic. And initially, the main challenges that this brings, there were some fires here in South Africa in 2020. And it was seen afterwards that the main difficulty is to categorize the animals that have been burned in the fires in order to allocate the right resources to save these animals or to take another decision if this is the case.
Yes.
So for that, prognostic indicators are used. The fire doesn't only affect the skin of the animal when they burn, they also affect systemically the animals. So there is an inflammatory response, there is the dehydration, there is a hypermetabolic response afterwards. And the different depth of burn also is going to indicate the severity of the case. So the surface of the body and the depth. And these animals then are going to have a big response, and we need to tackle that. This categorization actually that we are working on base everything on these factors. But there is another factors to consider as well. We need to consider the welfare of these animals and how long the treatment is going to be if they are decided to be treated. If there is going to be food and water for them in order to take care of them during treatment. So there is a lot of factors that have to be conceptualized in order to have a better outcome for them. And this actually what it provides is a little bit of route map.
Yes.
In order to reduce the losses.
Yeah, I think a farmer, there's nothing more devastating having a fire on your farm and seeing the animals that got hurt.
Yes.
And it's much more common than we think. It happens more commonly than we think, right?
It happens, yeah, commonly. There is certain practices in agriculture that sometimes they come out of hand, and could be one reason why the fire is there. Other reasons are, for example, the climatic phenomena. At the moment, the El Nino, which is bringing a drought, it's going to create a lot of dry matter in order to the fire to actually take up. So yes, it's something that we can prevent. I mean, and then we cannot prevent. Sorry, but we have an idea of when this could happen, or when there is major risk for this to happen.
There are certain things we can put in place to make almost the damage smaller.
Yes, yeah. And those are guidelines that already exist. But the event after this happens is what we are focusing on.
Yes. Yeah. Doctor, I think when we look at the main factors involved in the decision-making process for animals affected by fires, what are they?
So the main factors that we are looking at is welfare for the animals. First of all, this is constitutes a veterinary disaster, and well, the welfare of these animals are evidently affected in terms of their health, because they have been injured. There is part of the flock or herd that is also affected, so their social structure is devastated. Their food is gone because it's burned.
It's burnt, yes.
There is no fences, so they lose all reference in their environment. And it's very difficult to quantify how much are they affected in terms of welfare, but for sure they are negatively in a state of negative welfare.
Absolutely.
So that's the main or the first factor. Then we need to consider how affected they are clinically as well in order to be able to categorize them. And for this we use the prognostic indicators, as I said, so the total body surface area that is affected and the depth of the burn and where these burns are located. For example, critical areas in the body, the eyes, the mouth, the others or the feet, for example, are very important points to look at, because this will determine how they will recover. Smoke inhalation is a very high possibility as well, and this complicates every case. So these are the main factors. Then some constraints in terms of the decision that we have to take is, for example, how long this treatment is going to be, if it is decided to do so, and how costly it's going to be, and how these animals actually are going to be able to recover their full production potential if they recover. So these are the main things.
If there's a fire on a farm, according to you, and to make your work almost easier, what should the first things be that a farmer do if they see that animals did get hurt, that there are dead animals? I mean, what's that immediate response supposed to be?
So the immediate response is, first of all, determine which animals are able to walk and are aware of the environment. Those animals are the ones that need to be recovered. Immediately. Yes. And then the animals that are not able to move but still alive, those need to be immediately euthanized, because those animals have the less probability of coming back into health. So those, that's the response that we can give them. And also, if we decide to recover these animals, this is going to be probably a use of resources that could have been allocated to an animal that really is going to recover. And that's the main reason why we are creating this framework.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing. If you recover this animal, then you find that there is a burn. The first thing that you need to do is to cool down that burn with cold water. Not freezing water or anything like that. Cold water.
This is very valuable tips you're giving. So,
yes.
Yeah, please continue.
Because what we need to do immediately is to reduce the depth of the burn. And the tissues are hot and they continue burning. So we need to stop that with cold water for 10 to 15 minutes, running water. Then the next step is cover that burn with nylon film or whatever that you have to cover that in order to keep it clean. And then get your bit
as soon as possible.
Yes.
And like I say, this is valuable because we are not all veterinarians. I always say that a farmer is one of those special breeds where he has to play a lot of roles on the farm.
Oh yes.
And that's true. But when it comes to a moment of devastation, and once again, I do. It's a fact that we mere people living in South Africa, if you don't live on a farm, if you're not a farmer, you don't really realize that absolute devastation. But there are things that need to be done, and we can't just think that everybody knows what to do in a moment of disaster. So it's really, really valuable, the information you're giving through. Any further work that's being done to promote, to execute, to make your work actually dig deeper and hit deeper?
Yes. So we are currently working on a way to reduce the subjectivity of these prognostic indicators, especially the surface area. So the big issue with that is that every evaluator is going to have a different view.
Yes.
And is going to give a different percentage for that. And this percentage determines how able this animal is going to be to recover, together with the depth. So we are working on that with the Department of Engineering from UP on creating a digital tool in order to assess these animals more accurately.
That's really wonderful.
Yes, that we are very excited about that. And then also at the moment there is a survey that we have put in public in order for farmers and vets to actually bring their point of view and their ideas to the project in order for us to not only validate the points but also increase the perspective of what we need to improve.
Doctor, thank you so much for your knowledge. I really appreciate your time and good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Dankie dat jy ingeskakel het. Ek hoop dit was vir jou waardevol. Bly net daar, die groot ontbytspan is volgende. Ek sien mekaar môre weer. Totsiens.